Hi there, it's Lisa here on our Feast of the Holy Family. And the second reading that I am presenting today for you is from Colossians. And this reading is about family life in the Lord, right? Family life, where we have qualities and characteristics of what God has done for us, and therefore we do for each other, right? And then there is a little section on the responsibilities of each of the members of the family. So we start out this a reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Colossians. Brothers and sisters, I want you to pause and look at somebody when you say brothers and sisters, right? Put on, so just watch it happen, right? Like a cloak. Put on as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved. So that's what we are already, because God chose us. We are holy and we are beloved. What are we to put on? Heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility. Notice that I'm looking up and coming back to the book before I say the next one, so that each one of these gets its own turn. You read heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another. It's a blur. It's a blur. But if you say heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another, and forgiving one another, if one has a grievance against another. As the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also do. That's the reason, okay? So all of that is very slow, and it builds up to this line, as the Lord has forgiven you. That's why you must also do. Okay? And then we're going to pause right there. And then a little bit. And there's another, do you notice I made another pause? And over all these, so here's my second cloak, put on love. Slow it down. Did you see how I slowed it down? That is the bond of perfection. And another and. So I'm acting as if there's a comma there. Let the peace of Christ control your hearts. Wow, what would control my heart if it wasn't the peace of Christ? It would be jealousy, anger, ego, greed. Yeah. So let the peace of Christ control your hearts. And the way that I say that assumes that there's something else that's doing it right now, right? The peace into which you were also called in one body. Yup. All of that we need in this body. And be thankful. Another 1, 2, 3. 3 so far. We've got another one coming. And, comma, be thankful. Let the word of Christ, okay, here it comes. So there's a whole different focus going on here, a whole different emotion. And let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Dwell in you richly. So kind of let it just like, watch it just sink in velvet and gold maybe, huh? And as in all wisdom, you teach and admonish one another, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. So when I read this, I notice that I'm always looking at the choir. They are in that direction at our church because that's what they're doing, right? With gratitude to God in your heart. So this is a much lighter right here. This that little section, actually, that's one sentence, the word of Christ dwelling in you richly. And there's our fourth one. Whatever you do, in word or in deed, do everything. Did you hear this emphasis? Do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. There we go. And now we've got a different category that he's changing. Wives, be subordinate to your husbands as is proper in the Lord. That word subordinate translates in a variety of ways. We get this word right here, which kind of means, well, in the subordinate is one who is less than or less power than, actually. And in other places, we're talking about mutual love and respect. So that's unfortunate in my mind that we've got this translation, but that's what we got. So do it kindly as you say this. Be subordinate to your husbands as is proper in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives. Love your wives. I know some husbands are very annoyed with their wives. Well, your call is to love them and avoid any bitterness towards them. Even if they're nagging you, no bitterness. That's it. Children, obey your parents in everything, especially doing the chores, right? For this is pleasing to the Lord. There will be a time when you make your own decisions, but for right now, obey your parents in everything. Fathers, do not provoke your children. You know how fathers provoke their children? They test them for obedience. They power over them, okay? Fathers, do not provoke your children by forcing arbitrary obedience or a power move, so they may not become discouraged. Yeah, because it's fathers, you take care of their heart as well. Okay? So what an amazing letter this is. It's long, so we're going to take it slowly and make so much eye contact. It will be wonderful, right? All right, a reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Colossians. Brothers and sisters, put on as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving one another if one has a grievance against another. As the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also do. And over all these, put on love. That is the bond of perfection. And let the peace of Christ control your hearts, the peace into which you were also called in one body. And be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, as in all wisdom you teach and admonish one another, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with gratitude in your hearts to God. And whatever you do, in word or in deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Wives, be subordinate to your husbands, as is proper in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and avoid any bitterness toward them. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this is pleasing to the Lord. Fathers, do not provoke your children so that they may not become discouraged. The word of the Lord.